Hello everyone, welcome to the Trade On Summit. In this session we'll talk about what is alt season, how can we spot the next one. But right before we begin, allow me to quickly introduce myself. My name is Ben Samocha and I am the founder of Crypto Jungle, which is the leading Israeli platform for information, guides and services, and I am also working at Market Across, the world's leading PR and marketing agency. I was first introduced with cryptocurrencies in 2016 as a poker player. I was actually playing with Bitcoin without even knowing what it is. But when that moment came that I started learning about it and about the blockchain technology and everything around it, I discovered a world of opportunities, not just financial opportunities, but technological, societal, monetary, and so forth. In this session specifically, I will be giving you a glimpse into one of the most exciting periods in the cryptocurrency market, in terms at least of profit making, the alt season. But right before we begin, allow me to quickly step in with a disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. Everything I will be talking about today is not a financial advice or investment advice, and you are operating in your own sole responsibility. The information I will be sharing here today, or my analysis, I believe will be very beneficial for you. But again, as traders, you probably know what it means to have your own risk management and responsibility. Okay, so a little bit of background before we begin, in case some of you are not familiar too much with the crypto markets. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency to be created in 2009. Since then, it has managed to obtain the largest network effect, which led to the biggest community, the highest decentralization standards and security. And obviously, when it comes to the markets, it has the highest liquidity and the most trading volumes. Now, 2 years after Bitcoin was created, suddenly entrepreneurs and developers started to realize that they can take the blockchain, which is the technology that lies in the Bitcoin's basis, and to use it in order to create other coins for other purposes. That trend started in 2011, and since then, as you can see, we have more than 5,000 cryptocurrencies only listed in CoinMarketCap, which is an index and aggregator for cryptocurrencies and statistics in the space. But nonetheless, despite having 5,000 plus cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin remained the most dominant cryptocurrency. Now, basically, every cryptocurrency that is not Bitcoin, here, as you can see here on the list, you have Ethereum and Tether and XRP and Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV. Each and every one of them is considered an altcoin, because an altcoin is any coin that isn't Bitcoin. So what is alt season then? Alt season is a period of time that altcoins are gaining dominance versus BTC, meaning they are biting on its market share, and it usually means that they are exploding in value. It usually is like a short period of time, or a relatively short one, and they basically explode. Now, there's one thing to understand about altcoins and how they are traded in the crypto markets before we proceed with this analysis. Most altcoins are traded only against Bitcoin. Some are traded against Ethereum as well, but these markets are less liquid. Some altcoins, mainly the major ones, and today it's a bit more common to have altcoins traded this way, are also traded versus US dollar, euro, or stable coins. When they are traded against stable coins, they have another layer of liquidity, another layer of arbitrageurs trying to make their way through and make some more gains. And this helps facilitate a better understanding of who is affected by Bitcoin's volatile moves, and has some consequences to alt season itself. Let's take a look at the previous alt seasons. Okay, so the chart that we're looking at right now is the Bitcoin dominance chart. As you can see, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 periods of time that I personally define them as sort of an alt season. The first one was towards the end of 2013 when we had Bitcoin first jump above $1,000. But as you can see, all the way until early 2017, altcoins weren't really biting on Bitcoin's market share too much. It was still maintaining over 75% of the market share and remained the most dominant cryptocurrency in the space. But in early 2017, the ICO craze, the ICO bubble began. Many altcoins were generated in a click of a button, and that led to something new. Now, as you can see, I've written here there are mini seasons, regular seasons, and mega seasons. Let's see how I define it. So there are 3 types of alt seasons, at least according to my personal definition. The first one is the mini season, which basically means that altcoins are pushing and gaining profits versus BTC, at least in the double-digit phase, while it simultaneously means that they are biting on its market share, and I defined it that it will be somewhere between 10 to 14% in order to be a mini season. We also have the regular season, which means that they are taking on more dominance, more market share in the crypto markets, somewhere between 15 to 19%. And then there's the mega season, which usually comes with an explosion in altcoins, where they are even doing substantially higher numbers in terms of market share from Bitcoin. And there's also something key here to understand. The fact that they're gaining double digits or triple digits versus Bitcoin doesn't mean that they are not gaining hundreds or even thousands of percentage by themselves. If we take Ethereum, for example, in early 2016, while other cryptocurrencies, other altcoins were gaining in the tens or maybe small hundreds, Ethereum did 1500 or 1600% versus the US dollar. So there are 3 charts that we'll be looking at in order to analyze previous alt season and to understand from them what indicators we can use in order to try and spot the next one. The first chart is the Bitcoin dominance chart, which shows us how much market share does Bitcoin have out of the entire crypto market. So if Bitcoin is estimated at $100 billion and the entire market share is $200 billion, Bitcoin's dominance would be 50%. There's one small problem with this indicator, and that is the data that it relies on, which takes into account low liquidity altcoins that can be priced at some level and not traded for a long time, but still have the same market share because of the liquidity issues. That creates a problem, but I personally think it favors Bitcoin. So if, for example, Bitcoin's is now around 65% market share or dominance, it usually means he has more. Bitcoin has more market share than that. The second chart that we'll be looking at is how altcoins behave when Bitcoin moves in a certain direction. So we take the altcoin market cap and we divide it by the Bitcoin USD chart to see the price movements there. That helps us understand the double-digit gains or triple-digit gains that I was talking about. How our altcoins gain the dominance from Bitcoin. And then in the third chart, that's where we zoom in by doing a comparison between the Bitcoin chart and the altcoin chart in the same chart. Why is it different than the other one? It's different because we are able to pinpoint directly when the altcoin seasons began and what happened at the moment that they started. So without further ado, let's move on to the Bitcoin dominance chart and see what happened in previous seasons. So here we have the Bitcoin dominance chart. We had a glimpse at it before. basically, as I said, there were 7 different alt seasons. The first one happened in the end of 2013 when Bitcoin was just about to reach its all-time high. And that was a sort of mini season for 2 weeks, a blast in altcoins, but there weren't a lot of altcoins back then, which is why we can see it only summed up to 11.5% of Bitcoin losing dominance. Simultaneously, I can tell you that alts gained 310% against Bitcoin, and that was all during the uptrend. So that was all during a major uptrend in the Bitcoin markets themselves. The second season came 1 year later. So basically Bitcoin started losing a lot of market share. This time it was 16%. I've taken the conservative approach of not including this part of the alt season as well, despite the fact that it's losing a bit more than 6% here, because alt seasons are more defined as specific time periods that alts really explode in value in comparison to Bitcoin, and that felt a bit out of that, a bit too much to include it. Here it was a regular season, meaning alts gained 16% dominance over Bitcoin, while they were also gaining a lot of value against US dollar, 140% in total, and against Bitcoin 230%. So there was a lot of profit to be made there, but just like 2013, there were still not so many altcoins in the market. There wasn't a lot where to go. Things started changing in 2016. So in 2016, we had the first mega season. We had Bitcoin lose in just 2 months 20% of its market share, and altcoins started to explode. 2016, what happened differently here is that we had Ethereum in the picture. So basically anyone could start its own token, and the ICO craze has begun. And that led to a serious outflow of money from Bitcoin to the altcoins. During this period, it's like I told you, Ethereum led the market with 1500% gains, while during this period of time, Bitcoin lost 11%. Alts as a whole gained 300% over Bitcoin during that period, and that's a lot of profit opportunities. You can also see that if I zoom out, these periods of time are really coming out. They're really outside of what we see as the normal price action here. But then we arrived at 2017. And in February 2017, that was already behind the scenes. It was the peak of the ICO season. It was gaining so much attraction, so much exposure. So many retail audiences came out of nowhere and started pulling money into altcoins. That has led to the craziest alt season you can think of. It lasted just over 4 months, with Bitcoin losing almost 60% of its market share and eventually bottoming at 30-something%, 33. And during this period of time, what we had, and this is the numbers, Bitcoin actually went up during this time, 135%. During the same period, altcoins gained 2,200% against the US dollar, which ended up being 1,000% versus Bitcoin. So 1,000% increase in the alt market share versus Bitcoin led to a 60% decrease in Bitcoin's dominance chart. There's something that is important to me to say about the 2017 craze, or at least the first one. It's really safe to say that nobody saw this coming. nobody saw the insanity that was happening during the first half of 2017 and all these crazy gains. It was not something any indicator could tell you about. So yeah, we can see this trend line breaking down, but it doesn't mean that this provided information for Bitcoin losing so much dominance over such a short period. Then we had a correction upwards. Obviously, Bitcoin started gaining back his dominance. There was a huge flee towards Bitcoin, and then we had the market peak of 2017. So Bitcoin in 2017, you probably know this, reached almost $20,000 per one Bitcoin, and just a week before it did that, the altcoin season begun. And here as well, you can see we had another mega season, this time lasting for only 1 month. And during this one month, Bitcoin lost 50% of its dominance once again. During the same period, eventually, if you look at this whole month as a whole, Bitcoin lost 23%, altcoins gained 137% versus the US dollar. They gained 300% against Bitcoin. This was all in a downtrend of the market, or sort of a consolidation between a price of Bitcoin that stands at 13,500 and 17,500. So these two mega seasons were really something unorthodox, but they now provide us a lot of info. So other than that, there were 2 other seasons. Let's not focus about them because you already got it by now. Let's move on to check it out from the other perspective. So the chart that we're looking at right now is, like I said, it's the charts of the altcoin market cap and how it behaves when Bitcoin moves against the dollar. So this allows us to see how the alt season looks like from a different perspective. And here we can see the percentages that I've been talking about. Alts gaining 310%, 230, 300, and even 1,000 during the alt seasons. But we're mainly here to see if we can find indicators for what I believe is already the beginning of the next alt season, and I'll explain why I think it. So what I discovered is that if I take a Fibonacci retracement indicator and I do it from the last swing low until the peak of the actual season, which we also do it parallel with the Bitcoin dominance, and you'll also find out that this is actually sort of the inverted version of the Bitcoin dominance chart. It makes sense if you think about it. So you take the Fibonacci retracement and you take it to the peak of the previous alt season, and you can see that this is the case here. And what I've learned is that the next alt season began directly on the 618, and then I do the same thing, but this time this is the last swing low before the alt season. So I do this and I see again we bottom on the 618. So I say, okay, maybe there's a pattern, let's do it again, and it's once again in the 618. So this is correct, what I discovered, for the 3 first alt seasons. But then when you move on to the next alt seasons, you find out that the bottom was in the 382. And then you go another one, and the bottom was the 382. So this was correct for the 2017 alt seasons. What do I make of this? I make of it that perhaps, since we're looking at a more longer term time frame, we should check out what it means if we address this whole price action as if it was one alt season that is now looking for the bottom. So instead of looking at it as 1, 2, And 3, I want to take the last swing low and to the peak of the alt seasons as a whole. And here's what I found, that we almost touch the 618 right here. Now, simultaneously, what we're getting, if we're looking at this from a technical analysis perspective, is that we have a double bottom here. So we have 2 swing lows that are exactly on the same price level. We have 2 long-term trend lines that have served as resistance, have been tested as support, and now has been retested. And then we have this support trend line, which has been rising from 2013, and we can see here meeting the trend line and acting as support together. Then we have this breakout from the downtrend line from the peak of the last alt season. So as you can see, this candle right here, it's exploding with volume. Alts at the moment are exploding, and this is what I believe is the next alt season. What is something that we should be afraid of is this resistance right here. So basically we are still in a bear flag, which is a pattern that indicates a bearish move. So if we don't break through this, we might be going this way and seeking for lower lows. This especially could be a problem when you take into account Bitcoin and Bitcoin volatility. So Bitcoin is the king of the market, and when Bitcoin moves, he can decide for the alts what he wants to do. So this is one indicator that I got from this chart, which is the 618 as a bottoming for the alt seasons. And as you can see, we have the RSI here, the Relative Strength Index. And I like to play around with the middle line with the 50 indicator. And as you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 7 we know of alt seasons, and every alt season had the crossover to the other side. So we had a crossover here over here. Here we had it in what I decided not to include in the alt season, and then here in this alt season we crossed, and then we crossed here, and then we crossed here, and in this one we had a smaller cross. But look what happened over here. We had another cross, and this was exactly the bottom of this, the support holding itself, and there's the jump through. So for those who saw this support line holding it, they could have made better decisions and more risky ones as well on an early stage and ride this wave where with a lot of alts you know, doing hundreds of percents already, Cardano, VeChain, and so forth. But it's, in my opinion, not too late. It looks like there's still a lot to go. The last chart I want to show you is the Bitcoin chart and the comparison to the altcoin chart and how it behaves. So the difference is here that we're seeing both price actions against the dollar instead of Bitcoin's price action against the dollar and the altcoin price market, altcoin's price action against Bitcoin. So what we're seeing here is the peak of the 2013 bubble, where we had Bitcoin rise you know, hundreds of percentage from basically $170 or $200 to 1,100 in just a month or two. But there was one notable event here that I want you to take with you, to assuming that I am correct with a long-term you know, expectations of having another bull cycle similar to what we had in 2013 and 2017. So what we can take from here is the big profit-taking event. So I will show you now how in both 2013 and in 2017 we had an enormous bull cycle that led to a parabolic move with Bitcoin in Bitcoin's price. And right towards the end of the Bitcoin parabolic move, there was a big profit-taking event, which in 2013 it was about 40 to 45% decrease in the same day or the next 2 days, and in 2017 it was just over 30%. And this profit-taking event was basically marking the next alt season. So if you can see here, this is when the alt season began, like I showed you in the previous charts, and we are now on the daily chart, not the weekly, so we are seeing this day to day. And we had this price drop, this profit-taking event where we had officially a decrease of 17% that day, but it went up and then down, and eventually we're talking about pretty much 40% the same day. And right after this event, suddenly alts started overtaking Bitcoin. So Bitcoin continued to rise, but the alts were just exploding by it, and they were rising against it. So what we can see here is the 2013 version of it. Let's take a look at the 2017 one. So in the 2017 one, we can see pretty much the same thing. This marks the 7th of December. It marks the beginning of the alt season. And what we can see is that we had a big profit-taking event, which was, like I said, 30-something% decrease. And right after it, we saw Bitcoin continuing to rise, but alts started to explode. So, assuming there will be another bull run, or potentially you can take it as homework and look at lower time frames to see if we're getting short-term bull runs with parabolic moves, potentially it could be a way for you to enjoy a smaller alt season. It might not be a mini one, like a 10 to 15% decrease in Bitcoin's dominance, but it could be a 5% decrease in Bitcoin's dominance that leads to a profit making event. Now, another thing to notice here is that if we look simultaneously at the Bitcoin dominance chart, specifically for these two occasions, we're going to learn two things. So we had the November 13 one, which was November 13, this is it, and we're looking at 18th of November. We're looking at this right here, and we can see that the same day we had a huge drop in Bitcoin's dominance. And if we look at the 2017 one, which is this one, and it started at December 7th, we can also see that it was the peak of the Bitcoin dominance chart. So this is another thing to look at for the next bull cycle. Two final things before I finish up with this session, guys. So one is bearish and one is bullish. One bearish perspective is COVID-19 and its impact in terms of the financial crisis. So the main impact that I'm looking at is liquidity wise, having to go through an insolvency phase where companies go bankrupt and money gets basically demolished from the system. That creates a need for cash, and that cash needs to come from somewhere. And during crisis, it usually comes from risk assets. Cryptocurrencies are still considered to be risk assets, even if they are by now perceived as some kind of an hedge for many investors. So that's one aspect to keep in mind. It relates to alt season because it will affect the whole market. If there will be a big drop, another liquidity event like the previous one in March, we can expect any alt season that is in motion or about to happen to basically stop that same moment. The second thing is from the bullish perspective, and that's the resemblance to the ICO bubble. So there is a big trend that has been big for quite a while if you're in the crypto industry, and it's called decentralized finance, DeFi. I will not explain what it is right now. I will only tell you that I suggest you read about it and about DeFi tokens, how you can take loans as collateral, arbitrage opportunities, and basically it sort of creates a new vibe that reminds the ICO. If we take a look at the past 1.5 or 2 months, I would probably say that the DeFi related tokens are the ones that had the best yields, the best increase in price. So I would keep my eyes on that, because if we are indeed having an alt season similar to early 2017 or the end of 2017, then that's something to keep an eye on. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. It's been a pleasure to be hosted here in the Trade On Summit and to talk about the alt seasons, which is, like I said, one of the most exciting periods in the space. Hopefully I've given you enough information to continue doing your own research and to find these opportunities for profit, and to take perhaps a fundamental dive into projects in order to increase your knowledge, or from like I said, in the homework perspective, to zoom in into lower time frames and see if you can use these similar indicators on lower time frames as well. If you happen to speak Hebrew, you're more than welcome to visit my website, cryptojungle.co.il. If not, and you're an entrepreneur in the space, or just interested in more, you're welcome to reach out to me over LinkedIn or Facebook, and I'll be happy to assist. Bye bye.